Hello, my name is Rafe Roughton from unclaimedland.co.uk, the premium mapping service for unregistered land in England and Wales. So today we're going to be looking over the basics of adverse possession and how do you go about a claim in England and Wales. Obviously, all information I provide is no substitute for professional legal advice. Our tips, advice and product must only be used in conjunction with professional legal advice, and we take no responsibility for any actions taken as a result of our advice or our product. So how do you claim land for free with adverse possession in England and Wales? Firstly, what is adverse possession? Adverse possession is a legal principle that allows a person to gain ownership of another person's property by openly and exclusively occupying it for a certain period of time. An important principle in the UK is all land has an owner, with land either being registered or unregistered with the land registry. Registration of property ownership only became a requirement when land changed hands around 30 years ago. This means a significant percentage of England and Wales remains unregistered. This generally compromises land which has not changed owners recently. Both unregistered and registered land still has owners, however, and the process of going about an adverse possession does differ on the legal state of the land. Even if the land registry doesn't have ownership information on file, unregistered land always has an owner, and calling it unclaimed is somewhat of a misnomer. For example, you can see on our maps, roads are generally unregistered, yet they clearly have an owner, and to try and claim them would be impossible. There are a number of basic principles which apply to adverse possession, which you need to follow if you want your claim to succeed. You need to exclusively possess the land. This means you treat the land as your own, and you exclude any other individuals from accessing the property. For example, a field will need to be fenced off to prevent unauthorised access, and for a property you need to secure access by locking doors and blocking other entrances, such as open windows. Another major principle is you need to hold open possession. So all potential adverse possessions must clearly advertise the fact the land is private. You must sign the land, ideally with your contact information on signs, to ensure the current owner or any other individuals know that you are treating the land as your own. Remember, an adverse possession must be very clearly advertised as your property to ensure no doubt and to allow the previous landowner to challenge the claim. The third basic principle is the fact you must improve the property. All adverse possession claims should not be undertaken as a simple profit-making exercise. The importance of adverse possession in English law is to ensure abandoned properties are not left as unproductive eyesores. For a successful adverse possession, you need to demonstrate how the ownership of the land has benefited said land. For buildings, this means repairing them to an acceptable standard. For land, this could mean clearing rubbish, improving the character of the land by removing invasive plants or clearing ditches, and generally improving the aesthetical natural value of the property. Remember, you're trying to improve the property for the benefit of the community, not just yourself. Another basic principle is you should prove economic utilisation, and that you're using the land in an economically efficient manner. Coupled with the requirement to show evidence for possession, you may wish to rent out the property, for example, or you may wish to use the property to produce a certain product, for example, growing apples and making apple juice. Evidence of this is powerful proof of land ownership when you come to submit evidence, and does display you're trying to improve the character of the property. Now, the final big principle in adverse possession claims is the time limit. The time it takes between the start of an occupation and a successful claim varies on the nature of the previous ownership of the land. For basic property which is registered, this is 10 years, and for unregistered land it's a bit more at 12 years. For Crown land, including land owned by the government and dissolved companies, and for spiritual corporations, land is more stringent, with a 30-year requirement. Other time limits may also exist. For example, foreshores owned by the Crown, you have to wait 60 years. Now, next we're going to be going over the varying requirements to begin a claim between registered and unregistered land. So, for registered land is somewhat harder to complete a successful adverse possession claim upon, given the ownership information is on file and publicly available. After 10 years of a possession, the occupier may apply to register the land and gain the title deeds. The previous registered owner will, however, be notified and can object, which will start a 2-year period in which the previous owner must eject the occupier. If no action is taken, the squatter may apply again for ownership of the land in question. If the occupier is ejected from the land, but it's a compelling case, then they may apply again within 3 months of ejection, though such a scenario is very uncommon. In general, registered land is much harder for a prospective adverse claimer, given the nature of registered land means owners are more likely to be invested in the land regardless. Unregistered land. Now, unregistered land is your best bet as an adverse claimer. Our product maps out all unregistered land plots in England and Wales, so it's ideal for people looking to set about adverse claiming land. Registered land does not necessarily mean it's abandoned, but to process a claim is much easier. For unregistered land, the following rules apply. After 12 years, the occupier may apply to register the land as the owner. The land registry will attempt to notify anyone they consider has an interest in the land. However, given the land is unregistered, notification of the real owner is generally unachievable. Landowners must provide evidence in the form of original title deeds to the property in question, which are also quite difficult to locate. Therefore, despite the fact unregistered land does have an owner, the likelihood of a successful adverse possession on unregistered land is higher compared to registered land. Abandoned land, in which the owner is unaware of its existence, is also much more likely to be unregistered, given its nature. Property registered in the last few decades generally has not been forgotten about, yet a small plot of unregistered land in between a road and a railway line may have been last occupied a century ago, for example. So as you can see, you need to identify unregistered land if you want to maximise your chances of success claiming land for free with adverse possession. So how do you go about identifying unregistered land? And this is much harder than you would assume. The land registry does offer an online map for purchasing land ownership information, but the map fails to identify unclaimed land. Therefore, using publicly available, highly complex data, we have used our extensive knowledge of working with geographical information services and government statistics to bring you a simple and sleek product. Finding abandoned land is hard, and you need all the time you can, so prioritise your effort on searching and occupying rather than messing around with computers. And our maps can help you achieve that.